Okay, hello my friends, my name is Darren Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to help you understand what's going on in the war in Ukraine. Today is Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024. If you're looking for Ukraine news, I do these every day. There are 1,220 Russians off the battlefield, 4 tanks, 20 armored combat vehicles, and that we just clicked over 16,000 armored combat vehicles taken off the battlefield since this war began. Russian armored combat vehicles. 15,694 artillery pieces. It went up 57 today. Vehicles and fuel tanks, 64 vehicles and fuel tanks. But this 1,220 is a little high. There's been about an average of around 1,000 over the last 2 months, and that's higher than the normal average, which was somewhere around 800 and change. Okay, let's look at Andrew Perpetua's list. It's about 3-to-1 Russian to Ukrainian losses, and I'm comfortable once I see about 3-to-1. Anything less than that, because this is somewhat of a war of attrition, it makes me a little nervous. Okay, Russian forces launched overnight airstrikes on Sumy Oblast, targeting critical air infrastructure. There was a Interfax Ukraine posted this. Ukrainian air defense thwarts 7 out of 8 attack drones at night. That's good, but you have to read down a little bit further, because on the night of July 23rd, 2024, the enemy struck with an X-69 guided air missile that got through from the airspace of Kursk. And so that wasn't in the headline. The missile getting through wasn't in the headline, just a 7 out of 8. And it's good on them. They got 7 out of 8, but you want to understand the full picture. Okay, Andrew Perpetua, who puts these out every day, he's got his ear to the ground about as well as anybody in this space. And he makes some prescient comments, and this is one of them. It's frustrating because many portions of the front line right now would be easily defended with artillery due to unfavorable terrain for the attacker. But there is nowhere near enough ammo to do this, which is why you see Russia penetrating deep suicidal attacks. That's right. That's what they do. So if they just keep sending their men forward, some general somewhere, some Russian general is going to get a medal for taking some marginal bit of ground by expending lots of Russian soldiers, and that's problematic. Now it's problematic on both sides. Here's Jake Sullivan. Jason J. Smart posted this. No matter what happens next, referring to the Joe Biden stepping down, or well, not stepping down, bowing out of the presidential race. He's not stepping down right now, but he is bowing out of the upcoming race. The first step should be to fire Jake Sullivan, the worst national security advisor in U.S. history. Sullivan's record of failures, miscalculations, and errors has put America at risk and has betrayed Ukraine. I think there's something to that. He's hyper focused on not making an error that's going to provoke Putin in some way, as if you could do something that would make Putin go, you know what, they're not provoking me, I think I'm going to relent. It's just not going to work that way. I was reading this article by Stephen Moore the other day in Euromaidan Press, and he said this, and it struck me, and I went, yeah, that's right. Jake Sullivan's a lawyer. To the best of my knowledge, they don't offer classes on military strategy in law schools. Lawyers mitigate risk. So that's the way that Sullivan's approaching the war. Now, his background is in international relations. Like, I went to Wikipedia to look at this. United States National Security Advisor, reporting directly to President Joe Biden. He previously served as Director of Policy to Barack Obama, National Security Advisor to then Vice President Joe Biden, and Deputy Chief of Staff to Hillary Clinton. Sullivan also served as Senior Advisor to the U.S. federal government at the Iran nuclear negotiations, which to my mind is a catastrophe. We're only weeks away from nuclear weapons potentially in Iran. Educated in the United States and the United Kingdom, Sullivan first attended Yale University, where he majored in international studies and political science. Sullivan won a Rhodes Scholarship, so he's a smart guy, to attend Magdalen College in Oxford, where he studied international relations. So international relations, but that's not necessarily the same things as national security, which, I mean, I think you might want to have picked a former, military guy, or somebody in the CIA, or somebody with that level of background, rather than someone who graduated. He's got a Master of Philosophy, and he graduated with a Juris Doctorate. I don't take anything away from him for being smart, but the assumptions by which you make your decisions really do matter. Okay, so that's the Ukrainian and western side of this equation. But okay, so Ukraine, because of decisions that have been made by the West, doesn't have the weapons to be able to prosecute the war, and they've lost so many that they need to backfill. And they're even talking about discussing with Moldova the return of Ukrainian men of conscription age who fled the country illegally to Moldova. Ukrainian ambassador to Moldova mentioned that Kyiv is having a certain dialogue with Chesnu on this matter. Okay, so they need these men back. Now, in spite of staggering losses, Russia continues waging a genocidal war against Ukraine, occupying its territory and killing and deporting its people. Look at this graph. Like, these are losses, Russian average daily losses in Ukraine. And it's staggering. It was at like 1,000 or so as an average not too long ago, and now it's up. Let's go back to this list, and now it's up to 12,062 as an average daily loss. Like, that's just crazy. Okay, so what's Moscow doing? Moscow is just recruiting more. They're just going to keep sending men into the slaughter. Moscow residents were promised an additional payment of 1.9 million rubles, that's 22,000, if they signed a contract with the Russian Ministry of Defense to go to war. I don't think this guy's going to last very long. I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean, they're just taking men and sending them into the fire. So, okay, Ukrainian units of the 10th Mechanized Brigade shot down a Russian Su-25 using MANPADS. So another plane down. And again, each one that you get, here's the video, but I'm not going to actually show the video. So, whoops, let's expand that so I don't show the video so that we don't have any problems with YouTube. So that's what happened. Now, what are MANPADS? MANPADS are this: Man Portable Air Defense Systems. MANPADS, like you remember this from like Afghanistan and such, right? Or Iraq. Yeah, you hold it over your shoulder and you fire it. That's what they took it down with. That's pretty hardcore, right? Okay, so another Su-24 is down. Allegedly, Ukrainian forces attacked occupied Sevastopol, Russia's Port Kavkaz, and Belgorod Oblast with drones. I was interested in this Russia port in Kavkaz. So Ukrainian attack on Ferry kills one in Russian port. One person has been killed and others wounded in a Ukrainian drone attack on a ferry at a port in southern Russia. So I was trying to figure out, like, where is this? The port lies a few kilometers from the Kerch Bridge. Huh. A drone attack a few kilometers from the Kerch Bridge, which enables road and rail travel between Russia and Crimea. Okay, so where is it? Look at this. Look, this is the Kerch Bridge. This is where the drone attack was. That's really close to the Kerch. And I just found that to be pretty shocking that that happened there on the north side of the Kerch Bridge. Like, that's, yeah, okay. China and Europe are buying the same volumes of gas from Russia, according to Bloomberg, based on calculations of flows through Ukraine and the Turkish Stream. From January to June 2024, Russian Gazprom transferred 14.6 billion cubic meters to its few European clients, while China imported 15.2 billion cubic meters. So it's not exactly the same 14.6 and 15.2, but it's pretty close to Europe. Like, what's going on? Well, I mean, there are some countries in Europe that are still buying it, and that's problematic. I started the video yesterday with this about the Slovak Prime Minister raising concerns with Ukraine counterpart over suspension of Russian oil transit because there were sanctions on Lukoil, and he was unhappy about it. Well, in response to this, to Ukraine's decision to halt the transit of Russian oil, Hungary is hinting at the possibility of stopping electricity exports to Ukraine. Like, it's like they just want to be a stench in the nose of Europe and the West. Yeah. The Hungarian government views Kyiv's actions as destabilizing for Hungary and Slovakia. So, yeah, this one was Fico from Slovakia, and this is now Hungary doing that. And yeah. Hungary is now stripped of EU meeting over Ukraine's stance. The European Union's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, has stripped Hungary of the right to host the next meeting of foreign and defense ministers amid anger over a meeting that Prime Minister Viktor Orban held with Russian President Vladimir Putin, now that he became the head of the rotating presidency. But he doesn't have the power to speak for that, where the chief diplomat does. Mr. Borrell said Hungary's actions should have consequences and that we have to send a signal, even if it's a symbolic signal. Hungary described the move as completely childish. Well, but you shouldn't have been over in Russia talking to Putin and then go to China to speak to Xi as if you had the authority. It's almost like Hungary and Slovakia want to be like the bad boys in wrestling. Like if you remember the World Wrestling Federation back in the 1980s, it became WWE now, but it used to be called World Wrestling Federation. Like there would be like bad characters, and those bad characters were like notorious for just doing bad, stupid, evil things. And it's like they want to do that. Europe will freeze to Russia, has changed to Russians might freeze. A Russian MP has advised Russians to stock up on firewood for winter, including those who live in residential buildings. I'm not sure how that's going to work in a big high rise, but wow, that's something. We will simply die from lack of water, both cattle and people. Residents of Russia's Stavropol region have been denied water supplies because there is no money left for it. They appealed to Putin. The water company responded to their complaints by saying that there was no funding to restore the water supply. As a result, people were promised to be given water by 2025. Just wait a half a year or more for water. Okay. Ukraine might receive 15 Soviet MiG-29 fighters in the next month. Now, MiGs are like not the greatest jets, but they're still jets that can still do damage, and they're like hand-me-downs because Poland will give those fighter jets to Ukraine once they get their F-35s, which are like much newer, from the United States. The next peace summit, Joseph Borrell says, the next peace summit should be held with the participation of the Russian Federation, but not on the terms put forward by Russia. Okay, so that's the important thing. Putin's terms are just unacceptable. The Verkhovna Rada, that's the Parliament of Ukraine, has voted to extend mobilization and martial law for 90 days until November. They do this every 90 days, so there's nothing to see here. It was essentially almost everybody to nothing with a few abstentions, so that's what happened there. Okay, interception. I love watching drone warfare. This is a Russian Zala reconnaissance drone, and I just find it fascinating. Like that this is happening, that they're recording this, and that this is where we are in time and space. Okay, now, if you type in, I don't know how it'll work in Europe, but if you type in how to send husband into Google, right? You'll find things in the United States, at least, how to send my husband back, how to submit to my husband. That means, like, I think biblically, like, how do I, like, love and obey and listen to and work with my husband, how to submit to husband Christian. So I'm pretty sure that that's what that meant. How to submit to my husband, how to divorce notice to husband. I send a divorce notice to husband, how to send divorce notice to husband in India. That shouldn't count because we're not in India. How to send legal notice to husband, how to send flirty text to husband, how to send divorce notice to husband in Pakistan. Okay, so take these two off the table, but okay, that's what the kinds of things that you would expect if you start typing that in. In Russia, it's a little different. The unbearable burden of choice, a query in Russian how to send husband offers 8 popular suggestions of parting with your other half, including ex-husbands. They include special military operation, war, mental asylum, army, mobilization, and the USSR-inspired labor health camp. So if you type in how to send husband, just in Google, and it auto-fills the rest trying to figure out, it's to the special military operation, to the war, how to send them to paternity leave. Okay, that's not too bad. How to send them to work, not too bad. Although, why are you having to send them to work? Like, shouldn't he be wanting to go to work? How to send them to the loony bin, to a work camp, to a psychologist, to mobilization, to the army. How to send an ex-husband to the special military operation. That's what's being typed in Google in Russia. Okay, I just thought you would find that fascinating, as I did. Okay, last little bit. So we've been talking about Project Tatiana, Campaign 22. They're up to 106,000. It's trickling in slowly, but if you want to give to Pete's last campaign, please be sure to use the official link. I will put that in the video comments below. All right, thank you for the time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.